All right, let's go ahead and talk about color scheme generators, specifically in this case for the web design portion of our courses. I will have a link to the blog that has these links. So for this, I also cover this in Design 1 or 2, but we have a list of 60 generators. We also have couleurs and we have paletons that we can get these little swatches. So on the 60, so why I like to show the 61 is that, yes, couleurs and paleton are, I'm going to put in air quotes, the popular ones. There are a lot of them out there. So you can see there's our couleurs, there's our paleton. Adobe Color, now this also is in your Adobe Capture app. You can take photos of something that inspires you and then it generates the code and then it talks to your library, as does this. So that's nice because then where your library is, all your colors are going to pop up. You can see there's 60 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but what I usually recommend for this is try a couple out, see which ones work best for you, and then you can, go from there. Paleton, so let's start with that one, is more of the scientific version. So this one's the more precise. This is the one, like if you take a color and design class or you need to learn color theory, it's based on color theory. So if you've studied that in art history, that's what this is about. There is a color wheel, and this circle is going to define the main color. So the color that, in this case, it's showing the midpoint there. If you want full vibrancy, you can also drag it over there. So let's say your website's going to be this tealy blue. It's saying, all right, well, that's the tealy blue, but you can adjust it to whichever one you want. And then these extra ones are going to give you more of a contrast. So if they're closer together, it's going to be, a little bit similar in tone, whereas the further it's going to be spread out, you can see it's going to give you a broader range. So you can drag them around. So if it's more towards the midpoint, you're getting the highs and the darks. So this one is the monochromatic. This one is going to be your analogous or your adjacent, 3 or 4 that is going to be side by side in the color wheel. Triads and tetrads are going to have really nice energy to it. I always say, when in doubt, try a triad because it's going to give you a full range. It's really hard to mess up a triad color palette. How's that for a little side note? Also, the same thing with the tetrad. This is the square, so it has a really nice energy to it. And you also can see, so let's go back to our friend the triad, because these are looking pretty somewhat interesting. The presets tab, so you can see there's colors and then there's presets. You can tell it to be, a little bit lighter. Maybe you're more into the pastels or the very light pastels. Like that looks pretty good actually. Lighter pastels, etc. When you hover over it, you're going to see a number. So it says 588D8B. So if you're in Illustrator, and I'm going to have to write that down because I can't remember numbers off the top of my head. So 588D8B. So if you are designing your mock-up in Photoshop or Illustrator and you want your background color to be that tone, let's go ahead and make our box. So let's say this is going to be, in our mock-up, this is going to be the background. So then I would build my, palettes, headers, etc. based on this. Double click on your fill and you can see there's the hex code. So our hex codes are actually what we want when it comes to our web design. So 588D8B. I hit OK, and there is that tealy blue-green that we were talking about. So you can build your color swatches up this way from there. So let's go back into it. I think I was in Firefox. So, maybe then our header is going to be this, or our buttons. You have the whole spectrum to work with. If you do a Shift Command 4 on a Mac, your mouse turns into a crosshair and you can just take a screenshot of it. You'll hear that little snap noise. It'll eventually land itself onto your desktop. If you're on a PC, it's Alt Print Screen, and you might have to go into Photoshop, make a new document, paste it, and then save it. So you might have one extra step, just as a heads up. Couleurs functions relatively similarly. So for this, you create your sign-in, you start the generator, let it do its thing. I don't want to worry about this. So with that, I'm going to close all their little ads. You can hit your space bar and it's going to keep generating colors for you. So if you like something, like I actually really like how it generated these three. Actually, I like all five, but for demo's sake, we're just going to lock those three and we're just going to keep having these talk. Let's do a pale silver, and I want something with a really good contrast. That would actually be nice because we have a bright light and a dark. When you find them that you like, you can save it if you so desire. I'll call this demo just so we can find it. This is the magic of couleurs. It's going to actually export your palette for you. So it has the URL that you can share, a PDF, an image file of that, and if you're in our friend Dreamweaver or Webflow, if you're going to be using Webflow at all, or Brackets, or Glitch, so there's a couple out there, it'll actually give you your CSS code for you. And it even does it for you. How nice is that? And you can see it's giving gradients, etc. So you could download it. So let's go ahead and download it as the CSS. So you can use it from there. You could have copied it. For our sake, let's export it as, let's just do it as an image test. Let's save it. And it's opening up as a PNG. So if we were going into our friend Illustrator, and you could also write the hex codes down. I should mention that as well. You can see the numbers on the bottom. Those are the hex codes. So you can go ahead and just do it that way, or zooming out. Go ahead and find your test PNG. You can sample the colors. Now you can see there's a little bit of a difference. So this is the print versus the web. Oh, that's true. We had another palette. But you might notice a shift on that. So we can sample it with our eyedropper, and let's say for whatever reason I want 2 bars. So let's say this is going to be the social media links or whatever, like a little sub nav. Maybe that's going to be that color so we can find it. So whenever we have it zoomed in, we can see that our palettes are looking really nice together. So you don't have to use all of them. You can pick and choose. You can also go through all of these and find other versions that you like, or like I said, go ahead and use Adobe Capture. It is a free app because you have a Creative Cloud account, so whenever you link it up to it, it's going to talk to your libraries. I don't think I have my libraries open in this program. But in Photoshop, there it is. There's our colors. So the colors that I had already had on my phone end up showing up here. So let's pretend it's the same thing. It finds what we like and then it's going to put it in the library for us to review. So for your project, if you want to have a more cohesive color palette, color scheme generators are a great way to get that.